What is Doki Doki Literature Club? Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel game made by Team Salvato. Team Salvato consists of 5 members, but 3 main developers for the main game. Dan Salvato, the heart and soul of the story, 𝗏𝗀𝗄𝗃, the life giver to all of the characters, and 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀, the life giver to the world of DDLC. The game was released back in late 2017 on September 22nd, after roughly 2 years of development time. A few months after release, the visual novel exploded in popularity. Many big YouTubers started playing the game and showcased their reactions. Many at first were wondering what all the buzz was about, then later found out why. In 2018, the community was thriving, making a lot of fan-made content. Everyone was fighting over the question of who is best girl, as if anyone frickin' cares. After releasing DDLC, Dan Salvato took a break from game development. He didn't release anything until the 11th of June 2021. On this day, Doki Doki Literature Club Plus was announced, and it brought back hype to the DDLC community. The, not sequel, but an enhanced version of the DDLC experience came out on June 30th of 2021. This game satisfied the fan base of the visual novel and is now the main way to play DDLC because it's on all the modern consoles and has more things to do. This makes the main, free version of the game pretty much a demo.
Now, you might be wondering, why am I covering this game 5 years later? Well, why not? And also because I always wanted to take a look at the game and analyze it, because I thought that might be fun. So I think making a review out of this game would be a good way of achieving that dream, I guess you can call that.
This review will be split into many parts, all in one video. The first part will be reviewing the main game, the meat of the burger, the icing of the cake, DDLC. In this section, I will analyze anything that surrounds the main DDLC game, the story, the characters, the music, etc. In the second part, I will take a look at DDLC Plus, the cherry on top of the cake, the fries that come with the burger. Okay, I need to stop with these stupid idioms that make no sense. Anyway, in this section, I will cover everything that encompasses DDLC Plus, including the side stories, collectibles, etc. For the third part, I will cover some of the fan-made material for DDLC. This includes mods, and that's about it actually. This is a miscellaneous section and won't be a very long one. And the ending will be a recap of everything covered in the previous 3 parts. In this part, I will talk about the pros and cons and give a final rating for DDLC Plus, as that includes the main game and all the other side content. So, I guess in reality, I have misled all of you. Get trolled, noobex.
Well, that's everything I need to say for the introduction section. So let's finally talk about the damn story. I'm taking too long.
Dan Salvato first started developing Doki Doki Literature Club somewhere back in 2015. Back then, Dan was known for many other things that don't have anything to do with anime or visual novels. You might know him for working on Project M, a modification for Super Smash Bros. Brawl. Dan also did other Nintendo-related things, like speedrunning. His most famous run that I could find before DDLC was an all-melon speedrun in Yoshi's Story. He also made popular Super Mario Maker levels like P is for Pain, released back in 2015. This level utilized the P-switch object to make annoying and precise timings. Another example is Bimani Mario, made back in 2016. It is a rhythm game of sorts. But let's come back to DDLC related projects. Dan Salvato first started developing DDLC due to his mixed feelings towards anime and visual novels. Not only that, but another inspiration was his deep interest in surreal and unsettling experiences. In terms of video game inspirations, Salvato drew inspiration from the adventure game 𝗏𝗏𝗃 and platformer Aversion. These games are like Doki Doki, and while I don't know much about 𝗏𝗏𝗃, Aversion plays like Doki Doki. Why? Because Aversion goes from a cute, Mario-inspired 2D platformer to an unsettling experience, to say the least. Once Dan knew what he wanted, he made concept art using a free online anime creation program to create the initial character designs. Although Salvato wouldn't be satisfied with these designs, he contacted 𝗏𝗀𝗄𝗃, a freelance artist, to finalize his concepts. The backgrounds, believe it or not, were 3-dimensional, but later were processed by the background artist 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀. Dan himself composed the music for DDLC, although there isn't much information I could find about this other than the ending screen. After everything was in place, Dan Salvato finished coding the game in 𝗏𝗏𝗃. In case you don't know, 𝗏𝗏𝗃 is a free software game engine that is primarily used to make visual novel games.
The game was released back on September 22nd, 2017, and well, the rest is history. So, in a boring background information, let's take a look at Doki Doki Literature Club and play through it, you know? No?
Well, we have booted up Doki Doki Literature Club. Right off the bat, we are greeted with a warning screen with the famous phrase, "This game is not suitable for children or those who are easily disturbed."
Well, I am no child or easily disturbed person. All those years of holding back emotions have let me suppress any tears, so this will not affect me.
By playing Doki Doki Literature Club, you agree that you are at least 13 years of age and you consent to your exposure of highly disturbing content.
Does it count if I combine mine and my Huggy Wuggy plushie's age? I'm 11 and he's been with me quite a long time, so... Are the anime girls the highly disturbing content or what?
For real, let's talk about the title screen for a moment. First off, the intro song is top notch. I like the piano melody, and you'll find out about the importance of the piano later on. I am so glad they chose the piano as the main instrument for DDLC. The piano, to me, is the instrument that can bring out the most emotions in music, from sadness to happiness to anger and nostalgia. You can also mess around in the settings with some options. One thing I like is an option to control the speed of the auto feature, because sometimes it's too fast or too slow? That doesn't happen, but it would be a nice quality of life feature.
But I won't pull on a siren and talk about video game title screens for multiple pages. So instead, I'll move on and start a new game.
So, this is awkward. Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel game which usually don't have gameplay. All you really do is click to make the dialogue progress. In fact, you can just press this neat little button and make it so the dialogue moves along for you. I guess the only thing I can really talk about is the poem minigame. Every once in a while, after club time in DDLC is over, you can play this cool little minigame where you click random words to make anime girls like you.
Bruh. If only life was that easy. Unfortunately though, real life is not AI generated. Wait. Or is it?
I mean, the poem minigame isn't the only thing that you can interact with in DDLC. You can still select things to say or select certain options throughout the game, but nothing much. Although I will compliment one interactive element of Doki Doki. I think it's really cool that you have to dig around the files of the game to find some extra Easter eggs, and even make the story progress or unlock secret endings. You don't really see this in many other games, including horror games. Well, not that I'm aware of. The only thing similar to it that shoots to my mind is 𝗏𝗂𝗃𝗃, but I don't know that much about that game. This is also the reason why getting a console and mobile port for DDLC has always been an interesting thing to do. I'll give my thoughts about how they implemented that in the DDLC Plus section, but for now, let's stop rambling on about literally nothing. How did I manage to write a paragraph about clicking in a game with close to no gameplay? Normally, I talk about the story of a game last in game reviews.
I've only made a game review about one other game, and it's a game that doesn't even have a story. I hope that explains why it was at the end.
I have decided to make an exception for this video, as Doki Doki Literature Club's main selling point is the story and everything surrounding it. If it wasn't for the story, then... Actually, what would happen? Oh, and just another spoiler warning. I'm gonna be literally explaining the whole plot in this section, with some jokes and snarky remarks sprinkled in every once in a while. So please, just play the damn game. Just do it! Anyway, that's besides the point. Let's go back to the title screen again. When you press that daunting new game button, you are asked to enter your name. I entered Scouth because, well, let's stay professional. Our adventures start on a typical Tuesday, but this time it's not so typical. This is when we meet our first character, Sayori. Sayori is our childhood friend who we don't value at all. Screw Sayori, said the protagonist. Sayori is our protagonist's neighbor and good childhood friend. They stopped being friends because Sayori would start oversleeping around the time of high school starting. So instead of helping her or talking with her or something, he just straight up ignores her. Kind of cold, but I won't judge. Sayori then decides to invite us to the literature club, and of course we rejected at first. Anime club is where it's at, said the main character. So they go to the school and time passes.
Damn, if only school passed by this damn fast. I mean, it literally spends 2 seconds in the f***ing classroom before it's over. What kind of school is this?
Once school's over, Sayori again begs for Scout to join the literature club, but anime club.
Here are cupcakes?
Count me in. And that's how we got ourselves into the dreaded literature club. Here we finally meet our roster of characters. 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘂, the deceivingly cute girl who packs an assertive punch. Basically, a tsundere. Yuri, the timid and mysterious one who finds comfort in the world of books. Basically, the bookworm. And of course, Monika, the leader of the club. Coming back to the main story, Scout eats a cupcake.
And in true reviewer fashion, looks for the best angle to take a bite from. I swear to God, this game is literally parodying me.
After this, some chit-chat happens, but then Monika announces something.
Okay, everyone, let's all write a poem on our own.
Right, this is a literature club after all. But our titular character has to still decide whether he should join the club or not. I mean, it would make sense for him to say no, since he isn't interested in literature, or school for that matter, so I don't think having extra work on top of the already dreadful school day. He joins the club anyway. It's called Plot Convenience. Google it, or just look at the screen. Well, now that that plot hole has been solved, what else do we have? Oh right, the poem. Well now, let me introduce you to a new mechanic, the poem minigame. Pick words you think your favorite club member will like. It's as simple as that. 2 rows of 5 words will appear on the screen and you need to pick words that match with your favorite character, excluding Monika because you'll see why later. I am quite impressed by this feature of the game, as with my personal experience of using Ren'Py, I don't know how this was made. My main guess is that this was created with the use of choices, but even that sounds complicated and messy. And the poem minigame marks the end of day 1. It's time for day 2.
This time we just instantly teleport to the club room. This is straight up getting ridiculous now.
I'm not going to spend a lifetime explaining the conversations in detail, so let's just quickly go over what Scouth talked about on day 2 of the club. 2 members express their relief of us not running away, 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘁 gets mad because Monika's bullying her for manga, MC gets mad for no goddamn reason and bullies Sayori, Yuri gives us a book, The Portrait of Markov. I might talk about this book more in Act 2. MC eavesdrops on Sayori and Monika and then falls asleep. Sayori gets her turn at bullying us, depending on who you wrote your poem for. 1 of 3 scenes would play. And alright, now it's time to slow down a bit because it's poem sharing time.
Surprisingly enough, these girls are really impressed by 20 random words on a piece of paper. Especially the ones that fit Sayori, apparently. Let's see if it's really that easy. Exasperation, depression, childhood. So much sweat, bro.
Do you guys like it? Tell me in the comments. Alright, enough of that tomfoolery, let's get back to the story. Oh yeah, one more thing from the poem sharing portion of day 2. I would like to point out Monika's tip of the day, trademarked. Monika does give out some useful tips at some points, like the first one about writer's block, but the one on day 3 is... it speaks for itself. The final notable thing to happen on day 2 is the fight between Yuri and 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘂 about poems. To summarize, 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘂 does not like Yuri's writing style because it is too complicated and wordy, while Yuri dislikes 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘂's writing style because it's too simple.
Well, guess 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘂 would despise this video then.
For some reason, you get dragged into this argument, and you have to choose which character is your favorite. Or just let Sayori solve all your problems. And she does solve it. Hooray! Time for day 3! Day 3 is almost identical in structure to days 1 and 2, so I won't talk about it for very long. Sayori tries to trick our player, and for the first time, he uses his brain! Not for a very good situation, however. Cute girls do cute things, yada yada. Share poems or whatever, yada yada. Turns out Monika plays the piano, and that's why she was late to the club on day 3. I wonder if this is significant to the story or not. So after some time, Sayori convinces you to go pick up some supplies for making posters and such. Or something else happens, it depends on who you wrote the poem for on the first day. Well, anyway, poem sharing time again. The poems this time around are more hinty. That's not a word, but basically, Sayori's poem is about bottling up her emotions, Monika's poem is about being stuck in a computer, Yuri's poem is about utilizing a knife, except not for cutting vegetables, and 𝗏𝗏𝘂𝗏𝘂's poem is about her being insecure and not wanting to be considered weird. Of course, when you first play through DDLC, you don't really think much of these poems. Heck, even I only noticed on my most recent playthrough what they're about. But if you picked up on the hints, you'd know what's coming.
Yeah, I've gotta say, psychologists probably love this game.
Festival. So it turns out that there's a school culture festival coming out, and the fan-favorite literature club has to prepare. Monika decides it would be a good idea to recite poems in front of everyone. The rest disagree. Can you guess what happens next?
I guess that the characters will get into an argument, and then eventually they'll go along with it, and everybody will live happily ever after.
If that was your guess, then yeah, you're correct. The literature club members recite the poem they wrote, and everyone lives happily ever after.
Except for Sayori. While walking home from school with Sayori, she decides to ask us whether we'd walk home with Sayori or Yuri/Natsuki if given the chance. Now this question is a hint that Sayori over here doesn't feel very valued and that something's not quite right, but that'll make sense a little later. Day 4. After writing your poem, you close your eyes and get teleported to the literature club. You know, normal things that happen to normal people like you and me in normal situations. Monika gets teased for playing the piano again, cute anime girls do cute thing, yay so awesome, oh and Sayori feels like crap, but that's not important. Wait, hold on. So yeah, instead of being a man and comforting your childhood friend, we take the route of please do it for me. Well, poem sharing time arrives quicker than usual on this day. The most notable thing from this poem sharing session is Natsuki's poem, which is named Let Me Be Your Beach. Oh, and Sayori's still depressed.
Yeah, so Sayori decides to pull an F-17 and starts saying self-deprecating things about herself.
Of course, I disagree with literally everything that's being said, but at the end of all of it, Sayori returns to normal.
Not suspicious at all. Just a normal day with Sayori.
Sayori decides to go home early that day, and we don't walk her home for the first time. She says that she's feeling a bit unwell, and then she fades away behind the black screen transition. The members of the literature club notice that the club feels off without Sayori's presence. One of my favorite phrases in this section is the stagnating air is a common sign of foreshadowing. It's extremely ironic since a little bit later in Act 1, some bad things happen, but it's not time for that. Monika sort of dodges the whole weird mood and Sayori trend everyone's talking about, and talks about plans for the festival. Now our character is forced into choosing who he wants to help with in festival preparations. The game presents us with 4 choices, although if you pick these 2 then defecation impacts the angular rotating blades. So your only actual options are between Yuri and Natsuki. Okay, now it's magically day 6 because it's Sunday, and we ended off day 4 with Friday, I think. Night 5 just doesn't exist, I don't know why. Anyway, it's the day when either Natsuki or Yuri will come to your house and do things like bake cupcakes or make banners while things get weirdly carnal until something forces them to stop because they realize things are getting weirdly carnal. Anyway, before all of this happens, we decide to visit Sayori because Scout felt bad for not doing anything on Friday regarding Sayori's well-being. The protagonist breaks into Sayori's home and bursts into her room.
This is when song number 9 starts playing and Sayori decides to confess her depression.
Well, that doesn't happen like right off the bat. It's not like you come into the room and then Sayori says, "Hi, my name is Sayori and I have depression." There's like build-up, you know, but you know what I mean,
The whole scene with Sayori is a whole nother experience on your first playthrough. It is a very hard to digest dialogue sequence, and summarizing it is a bit hard and feels kind of disrespectful. But in the end, we decide to promise Sayori to do anything that's right for her and help her in these troubling times.
Well, I'd like you to guess how well that went.
Well, after comforting our childhood friend, we go back to our home to see one of the 2 characters waiting for us to open the damn door! And then the previously described things happen, and in the end, it doesn't really matter. Once Natsuki or Yuri is on the way to leave, we say, "Oh, we can hang out more and stuff." Then they get close to us and... Sayori?
Oof, thank gosh, I thought things were gonna get intimate. That's scary.
Sayori ruins the moment, and Natsuki or Yuri leave us with an awkward scene. Now Sayori thinks that we hate her and that we don't care for her for good reason, and then... oh, interesting options. You either confess your feelings to Sayori, or you literally friendzone them. Now, despite what the game wants you to think, both of these options are basically a bad ending. If you decide to choose to confess your feelings, then Sayori will calm down temporarily and still feel like a burden to you and still feel worthless. But if you friendzone her instead, she will have a breakdown and, well, typical human reaction to getting friendzoned. It really sucks that no matter what you do and say, there's no saving Sayori anymore. It's game over basically. It will just end up in a loop where Sayori will think she's a burden to everyone and end up doing something.
And that's depression, kids. That's why you treat everyone with respect. Hopefully you learned a lesson.
Day 7. It's the festival day, the most exciting day. We are gonna hang out with Sayori, or not if you decided to know her. We are gonna stuff ourselves with food and have a great and jolly time. I mean, who cares about waiting for Sayori to get ready for school? It's all about that festival, baby. So we arrive at school and Monika's the only one there, and then we bully Sayori because she's such a loser, lol. And then Monika says the infamous phrase,
You should take a little responsibility for her, Scout. I mean, especially after your exchange with her yesterday.
Wow, so Monika is a Russian spy gathering information about me and Sayori? That's pretty messed up, dude.
You kind of left her hanging this morning, you know?
yeah, I guess you're right. Hey, wait a minute. The titular character starts sprinting to Sayori's home, realizing that leaving someone alone with depression, especially this bad, is not a good idea. We smash down Sayori's front door again, go upstairs to her room, knock on the door, and then gently open the door to find... that. MC finds Sayori menacingly floating in the middle of the room in the middle of her nap. I guess that's the best way to put it. The scene is insanely dark. It's when you realize that the warning from the start wasn't kidding. This isn't just a silly little dating sim, it's much more. The word end flashes before us, signifying that this is the end of Act 1. But it's not quite over yet. The game reboots, deleting all of your previous save files and the progress that you made. If you try to load anything, it will just say that the save file was corrupted due to Sayori's character file not existing. You're forced to click this innocent looking button to start Act 2. Our adventures start on a typical Tuesday, but this time it's not so typical. This is when we meet our first character, is our childhood friend who we don't value at all. Screw. Our adventures start off with another boring school day. Our protagonist is a lonely loser because you can't have a good visual novel without an epic relatable protagonist, am I right? Or am I right, lads? The typical school day passes in 5 seconds, like the real world, and then Monika comes to greet us in the classroom. There's some awkward chit-chat between Monika and us until she decides to invite us to the club. She entices us with manga and being a woman, I guess. She decides to drop any priorities she had before just for us, because we're just that special. We then go to the literature club and meet 2 other interesting club members. Day 1 is basically a parody of Day 1 in Act 1, except it's feeling slightly different. Instead of Sayori being vice president, it's Yuri that's the VP. Natsuki makes more snarky remarks than usual, and Yuri is a little more shy than usual. Everything's just a tad bit off. Before the usual poem writing minigame, you unlock a special poem. You could choose to either read it or not. Okay, I'm kidding. Let's see what these special poems have to offer. At the beginning of each run, 3 special poems are chosen to be shown throughout the game. There are a total of 11 special poems. The poems can be associated with certain characters. Some are obvious, like this one. Can you guess who this poem is referencing? While some are more obscure, with people scratching their heads about it even to this day, like this nearly fully censored poem. These special poems really spice up DDLC and add some replayability to it.
I mean, there's no replayability to be found here, so like...
Well, it's time for Day 2. Monika greets us, and then things start getting wacky. The background is zooming in, Yuri's face is all distorted, her eye starts moving away from her face, Monika's character sprite goes ahead of the dialogue box, you know, the usual. After all those shenanigans are over, MC decides to read with Yuri, and now we can talk more about Portrait of Markov. In Act 1, Yuri describes this book's synopsis as a book about a girl in high school who moves in with her long-lost sister and then gets targeted by people who escaped from a human experiment prison. In Act 2, Yuri describes this book's synopsis as a book about a religious camp that was turned into a human experiment prison, with the people trapped there having a tray where they turn into killing machines. Now with the 2 plots in mind, we can connect the dots to find that Portrait of Markov's main character from Act 1 was being targeted by escapees from the human experiment prison talked about in Act 2. So there are 2 possibilities here. Either Yuri decided to tell a different narrative in Act 1 to get MC more interested, or Act 2 symbolizes a major change in Yuri's behavior and interests. Even the way Yuri reacts when we compare her to the main character of Portrait of Markov is proof of this statement. In Act 1, Yuri acts flustered and denies it in a playful way. In Act 2, Yuri acts defensive and nervously tries to dismiss the protagonist's thoughts. Her defensiveness while being compared likely foreshadows her growing obsession with the main character and fear of rejection. This will make more sense as Act 2 progresses, but just keep the Portrait of Markov metaphor in mind. Anyway, one awkward reading session and 4th wall break later, it's poem sharing time. The poem sharing session is basically the same, except Monika is slightly different and we are missing someone. Monika's poem is a sort of sequel to the one shown in Act 1. This time, the poem references Monika's self-awareness of how the other club members are basically 0s and 1s and not actual people.
Sounds a bit narcissistic to me. I think Monika here has main character syndrome.
After poem sharing time, things go back to chaotic. The music becomes off-pitch, but what's more interesting is the argument between Natsuki and Yuri that unfolds. This debacle does happen in Act 1, but here it's a lot more violent, so to speak. It escalates beyond the
Your poem style sucks. Mine is better.
to
You edgy female dog. I hope you rot in heck.
but with a lot more vulgar language. After sitting through that debacle, you get a choice again, but this time you can't call for Sayori to help you. Actually, you can't even pick anyone, since after picking someone enough times, the screen will zoom in more and more and Monika will just appear on your screen. Then you and Monika proceed to have a conversation outside of the club room about what happened. Then after some comforting Yuri, some 4th wall breaks, and Yuri politely asking to chat with us, we get prompted to the poem minigame again. And that's the end of Day 2. Well, unless you click this innocent looking option on the poem minigame, well then things go crazy again, but let's talk about that in a later section.
Dang, I really gotta
Stop.
promising to talk about things later. It's like putting online debt on myself. It's not a very good thing.
We once again skip school for day 3 and head to the club instantly.
Okay, well this is completely off topic, but I wonder how bad Scou's hygiene has gotten, considering we haven't seen him do some basic things like brushing his teeth or taking a shower. How are these girls flocking to him?
Cause it's a game. Yuri apologizes to us about yesterday and also apologizes to Natsuki. But Natsuki seems to have forgotten the whole debacle. Monika bursts into the room and the whole piano scene plays out again, except this time Monika says she's working on a song for us, which is a hint for the ending. Then you hang out with either Natsuki or Yuri for a bit. Now I went for Yuri's route in Act 2, so things could have played out a little differently, but after a certain point, Yuri goes out for tea, and after our main character gets bored of waiting, he goes out to be a seeker and find Yuri. We then find Yuri, using different lipstick brands to find her favorite shade. Yuri makes us tea. Nope, nothing happened. After our fun reading session with Yuri, I guess she gets high on chocolate and this happens. Poem sharing time! Monika's poem is a sequel once again, and we get a writing tip from Monika.
Sometimes you'll find yourself facing a difficult decision. When that happens, don't forget to save your game. Okay, this scene probably has a video on how different YouTubers reacted to this situation.
Please, help me.
Me? Okay. Natsuki's poem changes depending on if you wrote all the poems for her or if you didn't. If you didn't, then you'll just get the same poem as the one in Act 1. If you did write poems for her, then yeah. Yuri's poem is not even a poem, it's a goddamn novel. Also, Yuri wrote this poem with our pen, without consent. Now for the debacle of day 3, the festival. Normally, Sayori helps us through this part, and the characters are still willing to try out Monika's idea. But here, they just completely destroy her. This scene was actually sad for me to watch, and it brought out a lot of emotion. Why is Yuri's eye bleeding? And that's the end of day 3. I mean, we have a weird and wacky conversation with Monika before that, but who cares, right? It's all about the poem minigame. Now, weirdly enough, this is the first time where the poem minigame allows you to pick Monika's words. If you pick the right words, you could see Monika's little character thing bounce when you click one of her words. But I don't think it affects the gameplay. Day 4! Yuri's acting up, Monika's late for the club, the usual. The tea scene happens again, and we relive the Yuri scene from yesterday. Then some glitch things happen, and now we're having an actually meaningful conversation with Yuri. For the first time, Yuri isn't crazy. Oh, wait, never mind, here we go again. Thankfully, slowly fading in Monika saves the day, and now it's poem sharing time again. Natsuki's poem is a relief. Finally, another club member notices the oddities. On a first playthrough, it feels like a sort of saving grace. I spoke too soon. Hey guys, look, it's Slenderman. Oh, and this is the first mention of just Monika. This phrase will become a lot more important later. The game does a false reboot, and we're back in action. Yuri goes crazy over our poem and says some nasty things before showing her poem. It's, what the hell is this? There's literally blood and urine all over it. By the way, if you care, this is what the poem actually says. You can pause if you want to read it.
By the way, guys, in case you couldn't tell, Yuri's poem over here is about 𝐃𝐃𝐋𝐂.
Well, that was weird. We are prompted to either agree or disagree. I picked no because, didn't feel like selling my kidneys to Yuri. Then it's the festival preparation scene again. It's pretty similar to the original scene from Act 1, except with more vulgarity. You can pick between all the characters, but your mouse is dragged to the option to choose Monika. But if you somehow click on something else, this happens. Your only choice now is Monika, so pick that, I guess. I'm not going to go over the specifics, but after club time is technically over, it's the Yuri scene. Yuri confesses her quote-unquote love, or more like her obsession over us, and we are prompted to either accept her confession or not. Like the Sayori scene, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. If you pick no, then she will go to London and come back really quickly. If you pick yes, then the same will happen. Day 5 and Day 6 don't exist because, well, over the weekend, we just look at Yuri's decomposing corpse on the floor. Then the festival day comes. Natsuki comes into the classroom and sees Yuri and us. She then pukes and runs away before Monika enters the club room. After Monika sees this, she messes with the code and deletes both Yuri and Natsuki. This is where Act 2 ends and Act 3 begins. Act 3 is the most interesting act in Doki Doki Literature Club. All that this act is just you and Monika in a room together. Monika gives us an explanation as to what the heck happened in Act 1's ending and Act 2, and everything starts to make sense. Monika confesses her love to you and wants to share this moment with you forever. In fact, she gets so excited that she wants to write a poem about the whole situation, which prompts us into the poem minigame. Our options are, a bit limited, to say the least. We then get Monika's final poem, and Monika presumably gets her happy ending. I highly recommend playing through Act 3 yourself, assuming for some reason you haven't, or you ended it too early, considering Monika has a lot of interesting things to say. There are also a few Easter eggs scattered throughout. But anyway, if you want to progress to the next act and ending of Doki Doki Literature Club, you have to go into the game's files, go into the characters folder, and delete the monika.chr file. Then Monika glitches out, and after some talking, Monika reboots the game, and then Act 4 begins. Act 4 isn't exactly an act. Already from the title screen, we can see that Monika is missing from the title screen. All your save files from before are deleted, and the game restarts from the ground up, except without Monika. It's another typical Tuesday, and we meet Sayori again. This time, she didn't oversleep, and in fact, hasn't been for the past few... Actually, it's never stated. They just say that they've picked that habit back up again. Sayori asks our protagonist about which club we want to join, and we decide to keep it a surprise. The school day passes by in 5 seconds again, and we head to the literature club to surprise Sayori. This, of course, makes her ecstatic. Even Natsuki isn't disgusted by our visit, as in Act 1, she was dissatisfied with the fact that the new member is a boy, but here she doesn't seem to mind all that much. Everything seems to go smoothly in this version of the literature club. Everyone accepts us as a new member, everyone is just happier than before, and it seems to be a happy ending.
But guys, let's not forget that this is Doki Doki Literature Club. Having a happy ending in DDLC is like having world peace. It just won't happen.
Sayori proceeds to tell us that she's aware of everything that Monika did to her. She thanks us for our mischievous action. She then turns into Monika from Act 3 and says that we will stay with her forever and ever. Until Monika steps in to save the day, again! Monika, seeing that even this ending isn't happy, decides to delete everything relating to the literature club and this game. And that means everything. And then the credits roll, and we actually hear Monika's voice. Remember when I said Monika's working on a song for us in Act 2? Well, that song is actually played here. We get to see all the CGs for DDLC, we get to see the credits and special thank yous, and we get one final goodbye from Monika. Well, that's not the end of the story yet. There is another ending that you can get, and it's considered to be the good ending. To get this ending, you have to go through every single dialogue option and go through every single route in the game. Basically, get a 100% on DDLC. After that, get to the end of Doki Doki Act 4, and instead of the usual just Sayori thing we get, Sayori thanks us for supporting the literature club and going through so much hassle just to make everyone happy. The credits scene plays out a little differently, but it's pretty much the same except the CGs don't get deleted. After the credits, we get a special thank you from Team Salvato himself, and that's the end of the story.
Wow, that sure as hell was an interesting plot, but I think my Huggy Wuggy plushie is traumatized for life. But now that we're on the same page, let's move on to the visual section. Cool transition here!
The visuals of Doki Doki Literature Club are another main asset to the game that drives people into the game. I mean, how else are you supposed to attract and completely mislead the weebs? There are many parts that I can go over regarding the visuals of DDLC, and it's hard to pick where to start from. But the most important part of Doki Doki is the characters. Monika, Natsuki, Sayori, and Yuri. Now before you start going to the comments section and commenting, "Oh my god, Scouthex, you're such a weirdo for judging anime girls' looks." Well, there's more than just judging looks in this part. I'll be talking about what makes the character stand out, if they portray the personality of the character correctly, the art style, and many other things. It's not just about if they have big balloons, it's deeper than that. With that out of the way, let's look at the most eye-catching details of the characters presented. Right off the bat, we can see all the crazy hair colors present in Natsuki, Sayori, and Yuri. We can also see that everyone is wearing white socks apart from Monika. Monika's pose on the title screen is a lot more personal to us, the player, than the other characters. Monika also has the most realistic physical traits out of any character in DDLC. Realistic eye colors, realistic hair color. I wonder if the game is trying to tell us something. I love all these subtle clues to Monika's character being different from the rest. It also fits into the game, as you can just assume that it's because she's the president of the club. I always found this as an interesting design choice, and it just shows Team Salvato's attention to detail for DDLC. It's also interesting how Sayori is a sort of in-between between Monika and the other club members. Sayori has blue eyes that are commonly seen in the front rooms, damn, the back rooms have gone to my head. Sayori also has a bow, like Monika, and is pretty iconic to her character, as it's pretty hard to imagine her without it. Even in the menacing nap scene. Sayori has her bow on. Natsuki's character design has also struck a sort of, yep, this is a tsundere feel. If you don't know what a tsundere means, then here's the definition on screen, just for you normal people who go outside. A similar idea goes for Yuri, but it's not as clear as the rest of the cast. Now for the backgrounds. Oh my gosh, I love these so much. Delinquent did an amazing job with them, with their attention to detail and anime feel of them. They portray the visual novel feel superbly, and I can't deny that they look good on their own. These backgrounds originally started as 3D renders, which explains how there's so much detail. That doesn't take away from the feel though, as these backgrounds on their own could serve as good desktop backgrounds or just good background images. And to wrap up the visual section, the user interface. Now, I'm not really someone who's good at discussing UIs, but I'd say that Dan did a good job. I wouldn't say that there's much I could complain or even nitpick about, so that's a good sign.
So to conclude, visual equal good. Wow, what a shocker, am I right everybody? So now that we've discussed what DDLC here looks like, I think it would only be fair if we discussed what it sounded like.
I discussed this in the development section of this video, but Dan Salvato composed all of the music for this game. Yeah, he did a lot. Now let me just say this, I think the Doki Doki Literature Club official soundtrack is the best, or at least one of the best soundtracks I've heard. I know I said this in my last review, but like, you can't deny it. Most of the songs capture the atmosphere of the scene they were going for perfectly, so let's give a few of these tunes a listen. Let's see if they're worthy of entering your music playlist. I mean, it's the main theme of the game, what more can I say? I think the main title theme sounds great, although I can't really point out what makes it so great. I think it's more so that other songs in the game reference it, so it becomes iconic in its own way. So yeah, a great bop. I picked to talk about this song because it's the only song that doesn't have a piano playing anywhere. Now, this might sound far-fetched, but this is literally the only song that plays before Monika is present. It plays at the very start of the game when you first meet Sayori. Now it might be a bit of a stretch to say that Monika is actually the one behind all the music of this game, but think again. In Act 2, when you leave the club room to find Yuri before the whole lipstick thing, you hear the background music playing, but it sounds like it's playing from the club room. Take a listen. Just an interesting thought in my opinion, but let's move on to the next song. It's just a fun and chill song, not too fast and not too slow. I like this song a lot more because it has 4 different variants for each of the club members, and the official version of it on Team Salvato's channel is just all of the 4 variants combined. Or something like that anyway. It reminds me of the Valkyrie the Metaverse from the Metaverse Champions event, which, come to think of it, most of you probably didn't understand that reference. Oh well, next song. Oh hey, it's the Song of Impending Doom. This song plays before Yuri's trip to London and back, and it sets up the mood so well, man. Ignoring that, the song itself sounds nice. It's a more piano-focused song, which I like because I like piano. I don't have a specific reason to like this, I just think it's a good and nice to listen to song, and that's about it. The Sad Song. This song sets up the mood for the scenes it's used in extremely well. It's a slow, mezzo piano song that sounds good. I'd say the same for the song My Confession because it sounds similar to My Feeling. Both are great songs and really pack some emotional weight to them. If I had to pick a favorite song from DDLC, this would be the one without a question. This is pretty much my all-time favorite song that this game has to offer. It has one of the nicest melodies, and it's a good song to listen to when you're just reflecting on life. It's a good thinking song, you know? It also fits the scene it's used in very well, being used in Act 3 during Monika's apology to you. I don't know what else to say other than I love this song. I don't think I even need to explain myself. This is the ending song of the game, the final song that Monika was preparing for ever since the third day of Act 2. It is a powerful song filled with metaphors and has a great backing track. The lyrics of Your Reality also stand out on their own. It feels like a genuine song made by Monika, a song made by a real human. And I also find it so awesome that the song uses the melody of the main title theme. Like, oh my god, when you first figure that out, you feel like a genius, dude. Kudos, man. Kudos. Those are some of my personal favorites that the DDLC OST has to offer. It was hard to pick out a list, and even this one is pretty beefy. I enjoy every song in the soundtrack of Doki Doki, so let me just give a quick epic shout out to the songs I didn't mention. Dreams of Love and Literature, Poem Panic, Deja Vu, Sayonara, Just Monika, and Poems Are Forever. They are all great songs, but explaining my personal opinions on them would get boring because I would just start repeating myself. Well, those are my thoughts on the songs that Doki Doki Literature Club has to offer. Let's move on to the Easter eggs. Doki Doki Literature Club is no stranger to its hidden Easter eggs and secrets. This game certainly isn't lacking in those, unlike the previous game I took a look at, so let's not waste time and take a look at some of the more minor Easter eggs that you might notice on your first playthrough. There is a 25% chance that during the conversation with Yuri in Act 2 about the argument, Natsuki's mouth will become realistic and her eyes will become dark pixels. During Act 2, if Natsuki dislikes your poem, then there is a 1 in 3 chance that her eyes will literally pop out. I don't think I can show this Easter egg if I want to keep this video available to everyone. After closing the second special poem in Act 2, there is a 1 in 3 chance that the cursor will turn into Sayori's face. Wow! Okay, these Easter eggs are really boring. Let's take a look at the interesting secrets that DDLC has to offer that require you to dig into the files to see them. After reading through the plot of DDLC, your first thought might be to restart the game and just delete Monika at the very beginning. If you do this, you will get a secret ending. Once you delete Monika and start a new game, you'll be met with a very distressed Sayori questioning her existence before the game forcibly closes. Upon reopening the game, you'll be met with Sayori menacingly floating while taking a nap in black and white. You can trigger this screen by deleting Sayori from the beginning too. If you recorded it with OBS or XSplit during Monika's conversation in Act 3, then instead of mentioning your Steam or PC name, she will notice you recording her before... that happens. Another Easter egg you can do at home is during Act 4, if you try to retrieve Monika's character file, you will be met with this message saying,
Please stop playing with my heart. I don't want to come back.
If you go into the files right after Act 1's end, you can find a few new files in the game's directory. The first file is an image simply titled Happy Thoughts. Upon opening this image up, you are presented with a crude drawing of the Sayori scene from Act 1. Another file that will pop up is called traceback.txt, which is a runtime crash log that upon opening up contains some hidden text inside it.
Actually, you know what? This would probably be a lot easier if I just deleted her. She's the one who's making this so difficult. Well, here goes nothing.
The final file that appears is a file called Can You Hear Me, which contains some cryptic text, most likely Monika's reasoning for the deletion of Sayori, or something like that. Throughout Act 2, a bunch of new files appear in your directory, not including the previously mentioned ones. After Yuri describes the portrait of Markov, a file by the name of 𝐼𝐼𝐼𝐼𝐼𝐼.txt appears. This text file contains what I assume to be a vent from Monika about despite her changing the script in her favor, she can never get her own way and she can never get noticed by us or the protagonist. The final file presents itself after Yuri's scene. The file is titled Have a Nice Weekend. It contains a Visionaire cipher which, when decoded with the key Libitina, will give a base 64 code. When converting this base 64 text, we are presented with this. If anyone has any ideas for what this could mean, then you can gladly tell me in the comments section. But the most interesting Easter egg in Doki Doki Literature Club is actually the character files. .chr is in a real file format, although you can convert .chr to any other file format. Now if you convert the character files to the correct file type, you can open them and they have many stories to tell. For starters, if you convert Monika's file into a PNG file, then you will be greeted with this image.
The center of this image contains a black and white pixel arrangement. Your first thought might be that it's a QR code, but it's actually a binary code. The black pixels represent the number 0, and the white pixels represent the number 1. When you translate the binary code, you get a bunch of gibberish, or base64 text. So then you have to convert this base64 text in order to get a teaser for an upcoming Team Salvato game.
By the way, just saying that Team Salvato game still isn't out, and we still haven't even gotten a teaser for it. Maybe the Team Salvato game was just the friends we made along the way.
Natsuki's.chr file can be converted into a JFIF file, which results in this distorted image being presented. If you invert the colors, flip the image vertically, and then UV map the texture onto a cone, you will see a picture of a strange woman not seen or mentioned anywhere else in DDLC. Sayori's character file can be converted into an .ogg file, which is an audio file. Take a listen. Now, it might sound like this audio file means nothing, but to the dedicated game theory enjoyers, they might remember that one time MatPat mentioned spectrograms in a Fortnite theory. A spectrogram is a visual representation of audio waves. Anyway, once we put it through a spectrogram, it reveals a QR code, which leads you to a website called projectlibitina.com.
Oh hey, I'm fairly certain I mentioned this at the start of the video. Man, it's been quite a long time since then, hasn't it?
This website contains a whole catalog of interesting information, so I'll let you explore this website yourself if you want. And Yuri's character file is the easiest to decode out of all of them. Yuri's file can be opened up with Notepad, which will give you base64 text. Just use a converter, and you'll be greeted with a story that was written by Dan Salvato a while back.
Well, those are the Easter eggs that Doki Doki Literature Club has to offer. I know we're like nearly an hour in, but I promise that the next sections will not be as long. Now that we're done with Doki Doki, we can take a look at the enhanced and extended version of DDLC. DDLC Plus.
Doki Doki Literature Club was a success. Only 4 months into the game's release, it had over 2 million downloads on all platforms. It was obvious that the people really liked this game and wanted to see more from Team Salvato. There were multiple clues as to what game they would work on next in the game files, scripting messages about 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗃 and Third Eyes, although Dan would go silent in terms of updates for DDLC for years. There were minor blog posts here and there teasing a potential content update to Doki Doki Literature Club, although nothing was official until the beginning of 2020. More specifically, on January 2nd, Dan Salvato announced that there would be new DDLC content coming soon, while also confirming that it is not a sequel. Although this claim fell flat as there was radio silence about DDLC for about 1.5 years. Around this time, I was pretty invested into DDLC related content, although I can't deny that I was losing interest. But then, on June 11th of 2021, a bombshell was dropped onto the IGN YouTube channel.
Oh my god, everyone stop what you were doing before! This is #1 priority now!
You had to be there to know how crazy this reveal was. After receiving barely anything after years, this was one of the most exciting moments I've experienced that is related to video games. I was even planning on reviewing the game, but I thought it'd be better to merge that review with this one. But enough rambling about me. People were losing their minds, and best of all, the release date was June 30th, which wasn't that far away. Soon after the release of the trailer, DDLC Plus got a website, ddlc.plus, and, along with it, the ability to pre-order the new game. Physical releases for the console versions were promised to be released in August, but then delay after delay. I mean, at least we got it in the same year.
Well, sadly, I'm not one of those losers who owns this physical version of the game. I mean, who would spend 40 euros on a visual novel game? Oh, that's right. The guy who's making an hour-long review about this game.
Well, after 2.5 weeks of anxious anticipation, DDLC Plus was released to mostly positive reviews, with Steam players giving it a nice 10 out of 10, although there was more criticism brought to the table. I mean, the original game is already masterfully crafted and hard to top, so I'm not that shocked. I'll give my own thoughts later on, but for now, let us begin dissecting the bonus content featured in Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. The most eye-catching feature of DDLC Plus is the side stories present after you complete the main game.
and also some other minor things, but no one really cares about those. I think that for most people, the side stories are the main selling point, so that's why I'll talk about them more than anything else in this section. Unlike DDLC, the side stories aren't exactly a you have to play it for yourself to enjoy it. Rather, they're just that. Side stories. You don't really miss out on anything if you watch someone else play them, which is both a really good and bad move. You technically don't need to know anything about the main DDLC game in order to enjoy these side stories, since they're more so a prologue to the game rather than an epilogue. Well, enough rambling, let's quickly go over the plot of each side story and analyze them. Trust is the first side story in chronological order. If you want the side stories to follow a cohesive plot, then you need to go top to down. I think it's pretty weird that you just play the final side story without any context, but whatever. The first side story is about Monika and Sayori and the origins of the literature club. This time, I won't go into hyper detail and ramble on, so let's just get each side story over in a few sentences. Sayori discovers a poster advertising the literature club and decides to join, despite Monika being the only member. They start planning initial plans for the literature club, and eventually they discover Yuri while trying to promote the literature club. She doesn't initially join, but I'll talk about when she does in a minute. Sayori reveals she has thoughts to Monika, and they both share a wholesome moment.
It's obviously strange to see this after the events of DDLC, but I have a game theory now. I think that the reason that Monika was driven insane was because of our main character joining the literature club, because he sort of doesn't belong there. You could call it disturbance in the force. It wasn't specifically the literature club that drove Monika insane. Well, that's my game theory anyway.
The second side story in order is called Understanding. This side story focuses on Sayori and Yuri's incorporation into the literature club. Yuri talks about fantasy books, but Monika doesn't really like that, so Sayori takes over. Sayori tries to read Yuri's books, but she has a hard time, and Yuri takes it as Sayori hates it and she's forcing herself to do this. After some chit-chat with Monika and Sayori, the two solve their differences, and we get this cool CG, and everyone is happy again. What an exciting journey. The third side story is called Respect, and it focuses on Monika and Natsuki. This side story decides to skip a few weeks and put us into the future, which is a bit of a weird change of pace, but it's whatever. A member by the name of Natsuki arrives at the literature club and causes problems. She likes manga, and Monika hates manga because oh my god, manga is so dumb. Natsuki, reasonably, gets mad and doesn't feel very welcomed after this. We then see other characters in the school. Wait, what? It's a shame that they are blacked out like they're some sort of locked Super Smash Bros. Character, but holy crap, they finally acknowledge other characters in DDLC, what the hell? Okay, anyways, sorry for getting distracted there. After prying on Natsuki's conversation with her other friends, Monika realizes her wrongdoings and decides to actually try manga herself. One of the mangas convinces her into trying to learn the piano again. Some time passes, and Monika apologizes to Natsuki and makes up for it by focusing on her interests. And now... oh my gosh, is that a new classroom? Okay, I'll talk about it in the visual section, but I really like that they're expanding the DDLC world. Any new addition like the students from before or new classrooms is a very welcome addition. It makes it feel more realistic, so to speak. Anyway, Monika plays a song to Natsuki on the piano and they settle their differences. Am I the only one who's seeing a pattern here? Side story number 4 is Balance, which focuses on Natsuki and Sayori. Sayori tries really hard, again, and it messes up another relationship. After some chit-chat with the other members, Natsuki apologizes to Sayori by writing a poem to her. Okay, there's definitely a pattern that's undeniable. The fifth side story, named Reflection, is about Monika and Yuri. Strangely enough, I forgot about the whole story, like I only remember the ending where Monika helps Yuri write a letter to apologize to Natsuki. Yeah, as you can tell, it wasn't my favorite, since it felt like they did the same thing as previous side stories. In fact, I swear the scenario is present in the side story taken from other side stories. Although the sixth side story, Self-Love, changes up the formula of the typical side story. This side story focuses on Natsuki and Yuri and their growing relationship between themselves despite their differences. It starts off a few days after the events of Reflection, where Natsuki sees Yuri in a hallway and starts discussing things about their lives, like their friends, online friends, and school. Over the next few days, they discuss various topics until Natsuki finally cuts off her toxic friends and has a wholesome moment with Yuri. Easily my second favorite side story due to it actually focusing on the two characters rather than having a predictable plot and conclusion. It was a nice change of pace and it felt like you actually got to know the two girls better. Now wasn't this a great ending to the side stories? No? Well then there's one more side story for you. The seventh and final side story is called Equals. It's the shortest of them all and focuses on the entire literature club, but not including us since we don't exist yet, thankfully. In this short side story, the girls discuss festival plans and what they've gained from the literature club, and how it changed them as a person. Despite them all being drastically different people, they all gain new friends and new perspectives, and of course shared it to the literature club. Then at the end, the characters all write the names of the side stories on the chalkboard.
Hey, we just won Uno minutes. I thought this universe wasn't self-aware. What the heck?
Then they all take a group selfie, which can be seen in the pictures menu on the main screen, and everyone lived happily ever after.
Damn, that was so cool. I wonder what happens next. Oh, right, I remember, sorry.
There's technically one more side story called 𝗏𝗃, which is, yeah, there's probably a game theory video about this. I have no idea what any of this means. And well, that's all the side stories included in Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. What are my thoughts about them? I think they are a welcome addition to Doki Doki, and it's helpful to play through them after going through the events of the main game. Plus, I'd much rather have a backstory than a sequel. While it did get a bit repetitive at some points, it still was a fun journey to read through all the side stories and see the new custom backgrounds and CGs. The only thing I would complain about are the predictability of some of them and the low amount of poems used. But yeah, I'd say great addition. They didn't even need to do this, yet they still made side stories for the community to enjoy, and I appreciate that a lot. So I give side stories a base Kakarino Poggers out of 10. Take that as you will.
Oh yeah, by the way, you can ignore everything I just said because it's not canon. That's right, none of this matters. Who really cares anymore? That is a bit disappointing because they could have done some cooler things with non-canon plots. But it's also a good thing because giving more answers to the world of DDLC sort of breaks the immersion. So maybe it is a good thing? Well, I don't know, but what I do know is that up next we're going to take a look at the physical release of Doki Doki Literature Club Plus.
So, guess who's the moron who spent 40 euros on a small section of a video? That's right, it's the other guy.
What? But you literally forced me to.
A while ago, and I really mean a while ago, I ordered a physical copy of DDLC Plus for the Nintendo Switch because that's the only console I own. I ordered the Doki Doki Literature Club Plus Premium Physical Nintendo Switch Edition. That was a very short name. Anyway, I ordered that from Serenity Forge's website. The shipping costed $9, unlike Amazon US, which charges the same amount as the actual game for the shipping. They must have some really insane shipping if they're charging that much. Anyway, the shipment with Serenity Forge is insanely slow. I had to wait a month for it to get past the very first step, and by then I had already finished editing a portion of this video and also most of the script. And do you want to know why this whole thing took so long? It's all due to PAX West. For 2 weeks and a weekend, all shipping operations were paused, which included my package, which I ordered 11 days earlier. So I had to wait 4 weeks before the order got scanned by APC Postal Logistics. After APC was the one taking care of my package, suddenly it got updates frequently. At least the customer support was willing to answer questions, which is nice of them. I guess it's a you get what you paid for sort of situation. My package was then sent to Amsterdam, where Post Netherlands took over for a while. However, I didn't know this because I never received an email with my tracking number. Well, at least until my package arrived in Lithuania, when I was then asked to declare customs. So the rather affordable shipping price is masked behind a €15 customs fee, which I did have to pay for, but it was still a little annoying that I was not alerted about this. In the end, I ended up paying €54 for my package. If I had lived in the US, I could have just gone to a local Walmart and bought it for $30, or like €29. I can't even imagine how hard it is to get this game in other countries which don't have the friendliest relations with the US. But after nearly 2 months of waiting though, it finally arrived. And it's alright. I mean, I wasn't expecting that much, but it was still a pretty satisfying unboxing session. The package came with a Serenity Forge sticker, all of my personal details, and DDLC Plus. Now, let's talk about the case. I like the art on it. It's cool that they decided to make a new piece of artwork for the cover. I also like the back, so overall the cover is cool aesthetically. But no one really buys the physical version for the actual physical version of the game. Everyone buys it for the cool little extras you get along with the package. All the items that come along with the game discs are basic, but I do appreciate the effort they went through to include these little gifts. I think it definitely made the purchase more worthwhile. If you don't know what's in the box, there is a Metaverse employee card, a Literature Club member card, which I haven't quite filled out yet, a soundtrack download code, which I have to censor out, some cool stickers, a special poem from Monica, and character standees for every Literature Club member. And yes, these standees are now on my shelf. They're pretty cool. Although their build quality is weak because they fall over very easily. And also, the Nintendo Switch version of the physical release has a different inner cover sheet. I think that's a nice touch to my fellow Switch brothers. Oh, and once you remove all the little gifts, you can see that this inner cover sheet is a screenshot of the poem minigame. That's pretty cool, although it would have been cool to replace some of the minigame words with something else, like one of the words saying Nintendo or something like that. Just a random thought. So, would I recommend you to buy the physical release of Doki Doki? In my opinion, unless you are a fan of Doki Doki, there's really no reason to buy this. There's already little purpose for buying DDLC Plus, but this package is quite expensive, especially if you're not from the United States. I'd say you should reconsider purchasing it, and only buy it if you want it as a collector's item. The DDLC Plus game is only $15 on all digital platforms, so it's not really worth it to pay triple the price. Well, those are my thoughts on the physical release. I appreciate that they made it so much more than a typical physical release, and they went the extra mile to make it more fun to open the game up for the first time. But I hope they expand and get some physical copies into other countries and continents, because right now, you're not gonna get this bad boy for cheap outside of America. But yeah, that is all. I will now talk about the visuals again. Let me just start off by saying that they picked a great artist to make the new CGs and character art. Don't get me wrong, I loved 𝗏𝗁𝗄𝐻𝐿𝑦's work, but you can't deny that this looks awesome as well. The club member art looks a lot better now, and I know this sounds weird, but then again, you're this far into a video like this, we are both weird. The only design that I didn't really like was Natsuki's, because she looks oddly tall in the promotional material. She looks fine in the CGs in main game, but she just looks a little off here. The brand new backgrounds were made by 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀, and he did an amazing job again. I think 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗀 is the perfect artist for these backgrounds, and the new backgrounds fit right in with DDLC. Like with the DDLC backgrounds, I love the attention to detail and how there's so much going on, but if you don't feel like looking for details, they aren't all up in your face. Also, this club room background is awesome. You cannot tell me otherwise. So yeah, pretty similar opinion to part 1 section. No surprise there since the same artist made the backgrounds. Now where it gets interesting are the brand new CGs in the side stories. The DLC CGs were already pretty good, a bit too suspicious in some of them, but overall pretty good. But if you were to ask me which ones I think were better, well, if I was held at gunpoint to choose, I would say the side story backgrounds. I think they look excellent despite the change in artist. My personal favorite is Balances or Respect's CG. Pretty good, I can't lie. There are also extra pictures you can unlock in the Pictures tab. Whoa, what a shocking name. There are 4 new backgrounds for every member of the Literature Club, and this is awesome! It adds extra personality to the characters, and it is cute anime girls do cute things on steroids, oh my gosh. Oh yeah, and the user interface. I'd say it's pretty good, although it doesn't fit the theme of what it was going for. I think it would have been better if they made all the tabs be like a normal desktop, because this is a virtual machine. And by tabs, I mean have them be movable, have their own pictograms, etc. Now you might be saying, but what about console versions? But like, still. Ignoring the missed opportunity, I think all the menus themselves are good, shockingly. The settings menu does look a bit empty, and it's a little odd that they reserved half of it for the small text telling you how much data you collected. If I'm not lazy, I'll edit how I think a cooler interface for the settings would look like, and I think personally it'd be more console and user friendly. But those are just my quick thoughts on DDLC Plus's visuals. To summarize, I think they are good, and they still preserve the original feel of DDLC, even after all of these years. So I have to say, good job.
But you know, DDLC Plus also has this little thing called music, apparently, and I think I'll have a lot more to say about the music than the visuals. So you know what, let's just talk about that, and stop stretching out the visuals section where you have literally nothing to say.
The music for DDLC Plus was not composed by Dan Salvato this time. Instead, it was composed by 𝐃𝐃𝐋𝐂 with some help from Jason Hayes and Azuria Sky. Despite the different composers, I still think you should give the DDLC Plus original soundtrack a try, since it has some great songs. And I mean, it's probably not a coincidence that there is a music tab for you to check out the DDLC Plus soundtrack. If you don't know where to start, let me help you by telling you a few of my favorite songs. This song is the song that I think of when DDLC Plus is mentioned. It has a few references to the original DDLC game, which I think are awesome. I also like the calm atmosphere to the song. It is a very nice background song and it is nice to listen to. I feel like this could definitely be used in a calmer setting in the main Doki Doki game. This is my favorite song from the Doki Doki Plus soundtrack. I love the vibe to it and its upbeatness, if that makes any sense. It's an enjoyable piece of music to listen to, and it makes me feel happy inside. Dusk is the most emotional song for me in this soundtrack. I remember this song being used throughout emotional scenes of the side stories, but I think the scene that sticks out to me the most was Sayori's breakdown of the first side story. This song went perfectly along with that scene. I gotta give props to Nikki. Oh hey, it's the song that was used in the announcement trailer, and oh boy does it sound great. Again, I like the references to the Dreams of Love and Literature track. While it might sound like lazy resampling to some, to me it's a very nice way to pay respect to the main game. A great song to use for the trailer. You might be wondering why I put the piano version of the song instead of the regular one. Well, my dear viewer, if you remember the previous music section, you might remember me mentioning that I like piano a lot. Well, that didn't change. It's also just a great song. Sounds like something from DDLC. This song also adds a lot to the scene it was used in, so after all is said and done, it was substantial. A more upbeat song from the DDLC Plus playlist. I just wish it was a little faster since it is pretty slow, but it's not that big of a deal. Just another great sounding song honestly, and a nice break from the depressing songs we've been getting. Those are the 5 that I personally picked out. Now I do find it a bit disappointing that there weren't any allegro or faster tempo songs, because those are the ones that I usually enjoy. I do like an emotional piece every once in a while, but sometimes you can get a little boring if it's just that, you know. I feel like some more variety could be nice. Overall, it's not my favorite soundtrack. The main DDLC soundtrack and some fan-made mods, in my opinion, have a better soundtrack, but that doesn't mean this one is bad. So, let's move on to the secrets section, because, I said so. Ah, the secrets. My least favorite section of each review to edit. Probably. Hey editor, how are things going anyway?
Really pushing the length of this video, dude. Will it end anytime soon?
Nope, there are still more things to come. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked and take a look at the Easter eggs and other things hidden in DDLC Plus. Since DDLC Plus also includes the main game, it includes its secrets as well, and some of them are required for 100%ing the game. That sounds like a recipe for disaster, but let's ignore that and take a look at the new secrets. The most well-known secret is the Candy Hearts song Easter egg. To get it, you have to listen to this song on the music player for about 10 minutes. Then you want to exit the music player and play Candy Hearts again. You will now hear a distorted version of the song. This Easter egg is required for a 100% completion of DDLC Plus, which is why it is so popular. But that's a minor Easter egg. The more interesting secret is the Test VM side story you unlock after 100% completion. At first, it might seem like a random text and then gibberish, but if you have been on Test VM more than once, you can see that the random text isn't always the same. After many hours and reboots, the DDLC community managed to get every single available text string you can get on Test VM. If you combine it all, it looks something like this. I won't read all of this text because both you and I will get bored, but to summarize, it seems that this text is about a human experiment testing people with a third eye. I wonder where we have heard this story before. Oh, if you thought Salvato lost his storytelling game just because the side stories were cute and harmless, you are terribly mistaken. But Test VM isn't some one-off Easter egg put in for fun. There are many different places that explain what Test VM is. For example, there's this cool little tab called Mail. Every time you complete a side story, and when you complete the main game, you receive an email from a Metaverse Enterprise Studios employee. The emails sent go from the newest email to the oldest. There are many interesting things you can find in those mails. For example, we know that the protagonist in DDLC was never meant to be a part of the Doki Doki universe, or that Doki Doki Literature Club was made to test how humans would react to finding out they lived in a simulation. And we even find out Monika's real name, Monitor Kernel Access. But I think one of the biggest reveals in all this is the final paragraph in the final email you receive. This paragraph reveals to us that Test VM is actually Project Libitina, and I thought I wouldn't hear that name ever again. So it looks like Project Libitina hasn't been forgotten and seems to still be in the works. Whether it will be its own game released in the future or just another small reference / Easter egg is still a mystery. I still think it's cool that they mentioned it, however. It still reminds you that this isn't as innocent of a place as you thought. Well, in case you forgot after playing the side stories. And to finish off this section, let's talk about the game file Easter eggs. You obviously have the DDLC Easter eggs that we are all familiar with, but there are also extra secrets you can find if you dig deep enough into the files. One of the most notable files you can find is the projectplan.txt. To find it, you first have to go to the game files, click on the internal files, and open the folders 2, 2, and 1. Then you will find this file, although to open it, you must change the time on your computer to 2:40 AM or PM.
Or if you're that bored, then you can just wait for 2:40 PM or 2:40 AM in the real world. Please don't do this though, just don't.
Once the time becomes 2:40 AM or PM, you can open up projectplan.txt. There's probably a game theory video about this file and how it's important to the DDLC lore, so I won't explain it. Opening this file will give you a Steam achievement called Stonks. That is literally the only reason I know about this file. There are 4 other files that are also like this one, but at this point I am just way too lazy to cover them because this is the last section of the script that I have to finish, and I just want to go eat my sandwich that I've been craving for the past 30 minutes. So I'm gonna do that while the other guy talks.
So, that's Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. Overall, I think it was a great final product, but it did have its flaws, especially with some of its side stories and its weird pricing. I don't think DDLC Plus was bad per se, but I feel like it was just a game made for the fans rather than anybody else. It wasn't really a new experience or a must-have for casual enjoyers. But now, with Doki Doki Plus finally being analyzed, I think it's time we take a look at what Doki Doki's community has to offer. This one's exciting, everyone. I hope you're just excited as I am.
Doki Doki Literature Club's community is quite an interesting one. Like I mentioned in the intro, there is a lot of fan-made content. Now, I don't think I'm qualified to judge other people's artwork, and that's just boring. I could also judge people's videos on DDLC, but again, that just feels a bit unnecessary. Doki Doki Literature Club is very easy to tweak and code due to the game engine being Ren'Py. Because of that, there are a lot of fan-made modifications for the game. These mods offer completely different stories, visuals, and sometimes even their own music and secrets. So in this section, I will take a look at some fan-made mods for DDLC. Or to be exact, 4 of them. I will give a short summary of the mod, tell my thoughts about it, and put it on this awesome tier list. And no, this tier list isn't recycled from my Roblox Tycoons video, what do you mean?
Oh, you definitely recycled, alright.
Yeah, who the hell are you?
Okay, that reveal was a bit too dramatic. Hello everyone, my name's KaneMonger, also known as 2021 Man. Honestly, I'm gonna regret the day I ever took that picture. So in my section of this video, I'll be giving my thoughts about DDLC mods that have been made through the years. Because Scouthex is forcing... recommending me to talk about some of my personal favourite mods. So if you guys didn't know, which would be kind of surprising, DDLC mods is one of the most popular parts of DDLC's community, with the first mod only coming out 4 days after the official release of DDLC. And the first mod was DDLC Monica After Story. And trust me, I'm as surprised as you. The first DDLC mod was only made 4 days after the official release of DDLC. We should throw this man a f***ing parade. He created the entire community. But ever since that mod was released, everyone's pretty much hopped on the bandwagon of trying to make a DDLC mod, even if it's a shitpost, a good mod, full release, demos that end up getting cancelled. And at this point, I'd think there's a DDLC mod for every single topic. American schools? Bam. Family problems? Bam. As well as getting sucked into a video game where your love interest is actually a virtual reality person named Monica. Bam. And for everyone who has their own favourite Doki, don't worry, there is a bunch of mods for your specific favourite Doki. With Nasugi's most popular mod being Exit Music and Exit Music Redux, which was released a few months ago. With Sayori's being Salvation. With Yuri's being Fallen Angels, but at the moment I kind of think Yuri's best mod at the moment has to be Page of Life because even I'm enjoying it and I don't like Yuri's character at all. And with Monica, the most popular mod and the most anticipated mod for Act 2, World of Dreams. And honestly, since the DDLC community has been growing so much for the last couple of years and has never had a single problem... Okay, it's almost had no problems. With one mod dev being a prick to his developers and another one being a wrongin'. But those are the only 2 problems I've ever noticed in the community. But never mind those wrong people in the community, most of the DDLC mod community is actually quite nice, and you can easily take up at least a good day of your life to watch and play the mod. Because a lot of the DDLC mods are probably about 5 times as long as the original DDLC game. And I would know, I've played through a whole bunch of mods on my own YouTube channel, which is totally a reason why you should subscribe to me, by the way. As well as Scouthex, obviously. Obviously, he's reviewing DDLC, you should subscribe to him straight away. And just like Scouthex, I'll be doing a tier list of all the big mods that are well known in the community. This is my tier list for a lot of DDLC mods that are mostly well known in the community. But a lot of the mods I've done like in one video and single shitpost mods are pretty much not on this list because, as I said, they're shitposts. So not really meant to be taken seriously, but they're really fun to watch and you can get a good laugh out of them. Some of them are bad, some of them are really good, but it depends on how you really feel. And just remember, this is my personal opinion on where I think the mods should go in the tier list, because obviously not everyone's going to have the same opinion on a tier list. And even Scouthex is going to have a different opinion than me. But this is my opinion on all of these mods, but I'm not the best at making review videos, so here's a tier list. Hope you guys enjoyed my section of this video. This is very new to me to do with reviewing something, so yeah, thanks for watching my bit, and sorry if this came out a bit cringe or if anything like that. So thank you Scouthex for having me on the video, and you guys should totally subscribe to him. He's a f***ing legend for bringing me on the video as well.
Thank you so much, KaneMonger. So now that we have some background information on Doki Doki mods, and also Kane's opinions on them, let's take a look at a few mods that I find particularly interesting. The first mod that I will be taking a look at is called Doki Doki Literature Club Abridged, or How I Learned to Start Worrying and Love to Mod. That's quite a long name, so I'll be referring to it as Abridged for the rest of this section. Abridged is a parody mod of Doki Doki Literature Club that pokes fun at the main game with some other stuff sprinkled in. I'll just give a disclaimer, you should play through this mod or at least watch someone else play it. I don't want to ruin anything for you guys and gals.
I'm saying that as if anyone watches my videos. Well, I hope the robots are enjoying this video at least.
Okay, now with that out of the way, the title screen is interesting to say the least. It's the same as the regular DDLC title screen, but the characters have this sort of neutral or worried expression. The logo is the full name of the game, and it is just the regular logo but edited, so that's a little boring. It would have been funnier if they decided to redraw the DDLC logo in MS Paint or made the logo more monochrome. Well, I won't go over a plot summary for Abridged because it's mostly the main game, just with some different elements. For example, Natsuki and Yuri are dating now, and we get to choose Monika's gender. Yeah, it's a strange mod, but trust me, it's hilarious. I think my favorite character in terms of comedical value in this mod is Natsuki. I laughed at the things she said the most, and the poking fun at tsundere thing is executed well. Monika is also portrayed in a funny way in this mod, utilizing the command box that only appears a few times in the normal Doki Doki game a lot more, and for more satirical purposes, like renaming our character every once in a while to Dumbbutt. I also found the writing of the other characters good, it's just I would sound like a broken record, and that isn't very good for viewer retention now, is it?
You do know that the video's at least over an hour long now. I'm pretty sure viewer retention doesn't really matter anymore.
Oh yeah, who cares about that anymore? I haven't even mentioned the scripting in this game, like, it's just wow. There are more quirks than in the main game. For example, the settings menu has a number of options slider for either more options or just no options at all.
Guys, look! The new Juke Stars of Hell difficulty chart has been leaked in this DDLC mod, that's crazy!
Not just that, but some of the new character art is also welcome. It's quite clear that the creator did a good job on it. What's even more shocking is that this only took a month to make. Now that's dedication. Also, one ironic thing about the title of this mod is that Abridged means a piece of writing that's shortened, but this mod is longer than the original Doki Doki Literature Club game, so... And one last thing, Natsuki's dad. If you want to have a good laugh and you don't like DDLC or its mods, then I highly recommend you check this out. This mod doesn't take itself seriously and it has some great moments. The only disclaimer I will give is that it has a lot of lewd moments, so you should keep that in mind. So what tier would I give this mod? I personally think it deserves the A tier. It's a well-made mod that evokes the right emotion, and is different enough from the main game and other DDLC mods that it stands out in the crowd. For that, I have to give it a lot of credit.
But anyway, we need to move on to the next mod, and that mod is whatever will pop up in the screen in the next 1.4 seconds.
Doki Doki Literature Club Fleeting Feelings is the next mod that I will be taking a look at, as the transition slide showed just a few moments ago. Fleeting Feelings is the finale of the Fleeting Feelings mod universe, kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I would highly recommend playing through this mod and the rest of the mods associated with it. If you care, I'll give you a few moments to click off and check Fleeting Feelings out. Okay, so for the people remaining who probably just don't care about spoilers, let's take a look at this mod. I normally talk about the title screen first, like with the rest of the mods, but the title screen is just a white void. A white void with options, that is. Despite that, however, I still think it fits perfectly with this mod's mysterious atmosphere. There's also the logo, which is very simplistic, but different enough. The only issue is that it doesn't feel very DDLC-ish. The previous mods had logos that resembled the DDLC mod, but this one more so looks like an expensive clothing store logo. Not that it's bad per se, I mean, we barely even seen it anyway, it's just, I think it would be nicer if they made it like the previous logos. Now the plot is where things truly get weird. At first, it starts off all cute and innocent. It's festival day and everyone is preparing. Everyone is both nervous and excited for this day, and it's all wholesome and stuff. Until the game throws a complete curveball at you and suddenly shows a conversation between a character named Me and... It's a bit of a one-sided conversation in game, but it gives us the basic gist. To understand it though, you need to play through the previous entries of the Fleeting Feelings universe, so I won't cover it. We are then put into this inverse and monochrome world. Every background is flipped and more grayscale. We then meet Sayori outside her home and she tells us that she's shocked to see us. To us, this doesn't make sense, it's just yesterday we were celebrating the festival and everything was going well. But suddenly, Sayori's worried for us, checking if we have a fever and if we are alright. After about a minute of school, which is a new record in DDLC mods so far, we head to the club room, yet no one is there. We wait for 30 minutes until Sayori enters the club room and finds us sitting there goofing around. We ask her about the literature club. Sayori says that the literature club doesn't exist, and then the logo flashes. I'll just leave the story at that, since it's best experienced by actually playing through it, but the atmosphere in this mod is amazing. It puts you in this confusing world and doesn't give you any answers, and there's this huge build-up during the entire mod. It always has you thinking about what the heck just happened. It is the closest mod to the original DDLC that I have played. Like I mentioned previously, this mod is the finale of a whole mod series. For comparison, this mod is sort of like Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria Simulator in the FNAF series, where it explains all the loose ends of a story, while still leaving some things up to interpretation. I think it succeeds in that incredibly, while also giving a satisfying ending to everything. It's just, I can't put it into words on how awesome this mod is, so to try to explain myself better, I will compliment some of the more minor parts of this modification of the main DDLC game. First off, the visuals. The visuals are simple yet effective, putting you in a familiar environment that feels so alien to our normal world. The backgrounds are mirrored, the members' personalities are way different, and something has gone horribly wrong. I would also like to compliment the new character poses introduced into this mod. They look amazing, give more character to the characters. That sounded a bit weird, but what I'm trying to say is that it helps the mod express itself more and to stand out. The extra characters also have good design, fitting in with the rest of the DDLC cast in my opinion. They are a little weird at first, but they look a lot more realistic than some of the characters I've seen in mods.
Well, I've seen Sans in a DDLC mod before, so it's not a very high bar, but you know, I still think it should count.
Another feature that is unique to this mod is the quick time events. Do you like Friday Night Funkin'? Well, here's budget Friday Night Funkin' in a DDLC mod, because why the heck not?
Although unlike FNF, you are meant to hit the arrow key that pops up on screen before time runs out.
There are also some different features introduced later on, like a section where you're not meant to press anything, and one where you're meant to press the background arrow. Although one slight nitpick for me is the usage of these quick time events. In some parts of the game it sorta makes sense to use it, but in a scene where you need to get Yuri's attention away from books, you're supposed to start pulling out your DDR moves. Like, it works, I guess? I do give respect to the creator for adding a skip option for these minigames though. Oh, and let's not forget the music. While I'm not sure if the music is custom made for Fleeting Feelings, it nonetheless fits the situations in the mod.
Although I won't be talking about it,
Because as I mentioned previously, no clue if it was made or commissioned by the mod creator. To summarize Fleeting Feelings, it is an excellent finale to a superb mod series that answered all the loose ends and concluded the whole Fleeting Feelings universe. For its creativity and visuals, I give it the S tier. I think it deserves the spot.
Oh wow, what a great mod. That was awesome. I sure hope the next mod will be just as great.
Okay, you know what? I've been positive this entire video. All I've been doing is praising Doki Doki Literature Club and everything surrounding it as if it has no issues. So to finally give some negativity and to get a quick laugh, let's take a look at a mod that I didn't like so much. This mod is called Doki Doki Mercy. Now my complaining and jokes will be for entertainment purposes, and I don't mean to hate on the creator for making this at all. I just find this mod extremely funny in an it's so bad it's good way. Don't go out of your way to bully the creator of this mod, they've probably matured since the time of this monstrosity's birth. Well anyways, let's start ripping. Right off the bat, what happened to the title screen? The appeal of the DDLC background is that it uses softer colors to look nicer to look at. This just takes that out of the window and throws in an eye-burning cyan. And also the circle pattern is 2 different colors for some reason. Also, the logo is just disgusting. You could have just made an extremely simple logo and called it a day, but they decided to make it the most ugly logo I've ever seen in a DDLC mod. If this title screen isn't enough of a train wreck for you, then let's take a look at the actual content within the mod. The mod's plot is just a mess in itself. We start off with us apparently waking up from a coma, not like in a hospital bed, but just in our home. Or that's what Sayori tells us anyway. After we get to school with Sayori, she invites us to the literature club. After 5 seconds of school, we get to the club room. We get introduced to the club members Natsuki and Yuri, who both like skateboards. For some reason, 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝘁𝗀𝗃 pops up and resets the whole scene for us. We re-enter the club room and excuse ourselves to go to the restroom. When we come back, Sayori asks if we had a nice long defecation period. I'm not making this up, I promise you. We then get awoken by 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗁 the next day, and we have quite a few options. I thought it would be funny if I slept in for 2 hours and literally not take care of myself at all, like in the real DDLC game. We go outside to meet Sayori, who is still waiting for us after 2 hours.
Dude, the amount of plot holes in this mod is funny to say the least. Like, I just can't help but laugh.
Sayori comments on our horrible hygiene and we wet ourselves in pajamas before heading to school as if nothing happened. It's then club time again and we meet the club members again. We then hear them say some expired 2011 memes before the scene being reset by 𝗏𝗏𝗀𝗀𝗁 again. At this point, let's skip this part. After that whole fiasco, we meet our main... I don't even know anymore. We just meet Sentinel Gaming YT. He convinces us to continue playing this mod because he worked hard on it.
Personally, I think that's a cap. But that's just my opinion, though. It could be different for other people, you know?
Our protagonist decides to agree on a date with Sayori, and then we go to sleep. It's the next day, and you can go through the normal hygiene or routine again, but I can't be asked, to be honest. We go to the club after school, and we express our happy thoughts about yesterday. In fact, we thought yesterday was so awesome that we even spelled it wrong. Isn't that just so awesome? We're then transported into Sayori's house and it becomes nighttime before more 18+ content is described in words. Then my man, Sentinel Gaming YT, comes to the rescue and plugs his Doki Doki Salvation playthrough and tells you to skip to a certain point in his video in order to understand the mod. This is just next level advertising, honestly. Now after we skip past some uncomfortable dialogue, we get to see this visual. This is like the ugliest thing related to DDLC I've ever seen. And I've seen a lot in my years of playing mods for this game. This is just, I don't understand anymore. We then wake up after the adult stuff happens and apparently Sayori is pregnant. We then get to choose the name of our child. I don't even know what the hell these name options are, but I went with Jonathan because that one sounds funny. Afterward, we beat up the child with a pump.
You know what? This mod, I don't even know what's going on anymore. So you know what? I'm just gonna stop recapping the. I just completely give up. Goodbye, everybody.
Doki Doki Mercy is just hilarious because of its satirical value. The mod itself in quality is undoubtedly horrendous and is cringy, but honestly I laughed so many times when playing through this. The dialogue has numerous grammatical mistakes and just unfunny moments. I can't even see what this was going for, honestly. It just seems that Mr. Sentinel Gaming YT just combined a bunch of loose ideas together to make one final and horrendous product. Other than the fact that it's funny, it has nothing going for it. It's funny not in the way that Abridged presents itself, where it's funny because it parodies the main game and it has good jokes, but rather it's funny because it's just horrible, to say the least. I'm putting this mod in the F tier. It has literally nothing going for it. I don't know what you were expecting. But now that we've flushed the negativity out of our system, let's go check out the Good Ending mod. The Good Ending is an older mod for Doki Doki Literature Club, with the first demo releasing a year after DDLC's release, and Act 1 releasing a year later. Despite the mod's age, however, I think it holds up excellently because of its story and well-made visuals, and it is definitely worth it to check it out, despite its generic-sounding name. The title screen is the same as the Doki Doki title screen, except with a different logo. This is a common trend among DDLC mods, especially older ones, but I think that it makes sense for this mod because it's meant to be a good ending, and so it has to be as close to the original game as possible, which, by the way, it succeeds in doing in my opinion, but I'll let you decide after telling you a summarized plot for the Good Ending. The Good Ending mod is split into two different universes. The first one that you're meant to play through is the prologue. While the prologue is optional and is only recommended, it is still a part of the main Good Ending story. It begins with our titular character waking up, except this time he experiences schizophrenic hallucinations and becomes self-aware. In other words, he remembers the original Doki Doki game and decides to use his knowledge in order to prevent the events in the Doki Doki universe. Our actions are different from the Doki Doki universe, although we follow a similar story path. We meet Sayori, she invites us to the literature club, we join, and eat cupcake.
Except this time, our protagonist doesn't act like a high school bully and doesn't make fun of Sayori. I'm sure no other character will notice this weird personality shift. I'm just sure of that.
We then go to the park with Sayori, and we get to see this cool little park background, which I've seen in like at least a few other mods. Once wholesome time with Sayori is over, we switch to Monika's perspective before we come into the club for the first time. Everything is going great until this Shadow Monika thing comes in.
Huh? But I thought I unlocked Monika. Did my save file corrupt or something?
After saying some edgy lines that the average Sonic OC wishes they could replicate, there's a quick scare with these eye thingies. We also get another quick scare when we get the poem minigame and it starts glitching out. Now at this point, the most important line of the prologue is said by our in-game MC.
I've taken control. Monika's unable to alter the game files or change anything.
And after this point, everything starts to go downhill. Due to our distrust in Monika, we completely ignore her and, later on in the story, insult her and blame her for all of the actions that she did in the original Doki Doki game. We also start focusing on the other characters, most notably Sayori, way too much, to the point where we forget our intended goal of saving the literature club. Although it isn't completely the in-game MC's fault, there is a secret entity that is distracting us and making everything harder for us. It's the reason behind the weird hallucinations and our distrust in Monika. After all of Monika's desperate attempts to convince us to work with her, and our power-crazy ignorance towards the player and the other club members,
Kinda sounds like the average politician if I'm being honest.
as I was saying, Monika ends up... I'll just show it to you. Yeah, this isn't the only dark moment in the mod, and it's not even the ending of the prologue. There are many scares and a lot of unsettling imagery throughout the Good Ending, but in the end, none of that matters because this isn't canon, everyone! It's a different universe, so who cares, am I right or am I right, lads? Well, now time to talk about that second universe, also known as the main one, the actual Good Ending universe. The Good Ending mod officially begins with our titular character waking up from a nightmare and being comforted by his mother. Everything is all wholesome until...
Oh! You know what? I ask that same question every day to my father. Finally, the Doki Doki Literature Club is relatable. Oh my god.
This intro scene is amazing. It really draws you into the plot and makes you ponder about what the hell just happened. While the prologue had a great introduction too, this is way better in my opinion. It's less of loud noises and disturbing imagery, but more of a psychological sort of thing. Like, well, Doki Doki Literature Club. This time, unlike the prologue, the game plays out differently. We do meet Sayori at the start of the game, but we collapse in front of her. We skip being invited to the literature club and all the other shenanigans, and instead, meet the literature club members before even stepping into the club room. This was an odd design choice, but I don't mind it. Another odd design choice was the removal of poems. Instead, it is replaced with a book discussion segment that happens on Friday.
Spoiler alert, they never end up discussing that book. Oh man, and I was really looking forward to that. What the hell, man? It's just, this game's ruining my mood.
Let's skip ahead of the story a little bit because I don't want to spoil everything that happens in this mod. After some time, we meet up with Monika in the music room. RMC and Monika start playing the piano together and then discuss escaping from the terrible reality that they are in. You know, two things that are related, of course. Oh yeah, and Yuri's still being bullied by gangsters from London, so yeah, not everything is sunshine and rainbows. I like how the Good Ending has a great balance of wholesome and heartwarming moments that you would expect in a good ending, while also having horror and bad happenings throughout. I think without the balance of these two, sure it'd still be a good mod, but it wouldn't be a great mod. Speaking of bad events, Monika messes with the files and now we're depressed. And things start going downhill from here again. We reach the climax when Monika asks us to tell us about what we are hiding. In case you don't know, we are hiding the events that took place in Doki Doki Literature Club away from Monika in order not to break her. The main character in game decides to not tell Monika, so it's up to us to fess up. And, well, I think it's neat that this mod integrates user interaction. The only other mod I can think of where user interaction with things like the files is necessary is the main DDLC game. So it's nice that this element is used in a mod like this. Well, I don't want to share any more details about this mod. Unfortunately, it seems that the creator of the good ending has left the internet because there hasn't been any update relating to Act 2 since late 2020, which is incredibly disappointing. I really hope this mod gets the revival it deserves one day. It is masterfully crafted and genuinely feels like something Mr. Salvato would write. And I haven't even mentioned the music or visuals. These two things are also great, but I'm sick of repeating the same things over and over again. And for all of those reasons, I think the good ending deserves the A tier. Wait, what? The only reason it isn't placing any higher is due to it being unfinished. But even with what we have, it's amazing.
Well, hey, those are the 4 mods that I thought were the most interesting to talk about. I will flash up some mods on screen that I think deserve an honorable mention. I might even put them on the tier list, who knows, but these mods are cool, or not cool, but I still think they should be mentioned somehow.
But strangely enough, this video has to end at some point. Here's the final tier list. You don't have to agree with it, it's just my opinion. In fact, you might agree with KaneMonger more, who knows?
But hey, now it's time for the final section of this video, also known as part 4, and also known as the conclusion.
Not everything is perfect, everything has its flaws, and well, everything has its upsides. Despite my love for DDLC, even I can admit that there are some bad things about it. I'll be talking about the pros and cons for DDLC Plus, because, like I mentioned in the beginning of this video, the final rating is going to be for DDLC Plus.
Huh. Now that I think about it, it's been quite a while since I last said that, so I don't really blame you if you forgot.
Well, let's not waste any more time and take a look at the pros. The story, I mean, it's obvious. The way the story is written really drags you in, especially the game's intended target, lonely and depressed weeaboos. The horror elements, while some of it is just cheap jump scares, there are some great scenes that achieve unsettlement within the player. Like, for example, the scene where Monika deletes the other characters, or when Natsuki completely forgets about her argument with Yuri that happened the day before. It's brilliant. The visuals, the art is splendid. It's a new style that I haven't really seen before, but despite that, I really like it. The music. Honestly, this definitely deserves at least a top 3 spot in the best video game OSTs I've ever heard. Although I will say the DDLC Plus's OST is a bit lacking. The involvement of game file manipulation is one of the most unique and cool elements of DDLC. Like I said already a while ago, not many other games use this when it's one of the most interesting interactive elements. The Pictures tab in DDLC Plus is a nice addition in my opinion. It incentivizes exploration and gives the game a bigger goal other than to just guess at the end of the story. It's neat. The side stories are a great addition to DDLC Plus. I think many of us wouldn't even bother checking out DDLC Plus if it wasn't for the side stories. The cool little extras that come with the physical release of DDLC Plus. Very nice addition from Serenity Forge. And, as a bonus, the fan-made mods for DDLC. Most of them are amazing. However, I still have some issues with Doki Doki. It's not a perfect game, it has its flaws, believe it or not. First off, this game is arduous to experience at its fullest potential. The best way to experience this game is to jump in without knowing anything about it, although that's impossible due to how many damn warnings the game throws at you, and due to how much online discussion this game has. Some of the scares in this game were pretty cheap, honestly. Like, was there any point to Natsuki's Slenderman cosplay? Like, wouldn't it be more unsettling if the environment looked completely normal? The delivery time for DDLC Plus's physical edition was unreasonably long. I know they're a small team and all, but it's been a year since this game was released, and order times are still really slow. And honestly, that's about it. There are a few more nitpicks that I could technically point out, like how Natsuki looks weirdly tall in the promotional material for DDLC Plus. And even if I did want to point out those small things, I couldn't think of many of them. So that's it. I'm now gonna move on to the final thoughts section and give a final rating. Oh hey, we got to the end of the video? That's strange. Well, I guess this is it. So let's recap everything we've discussed in the past hour and a half or so. I honestly don't even know how long it's been. So to summarize, Doki Doki Literature Club is a visual novel psychological horror game disguised as a stereotypical dating sim filled with stereotypical anime high school girls. The game lures you in, giving you a false sense of security until it eventually throws in numerous dark plot twists your way, making you ponder at how it all came to be. Eventually, the game starts breaking down more and more until Monika deletes everything and forces you to be with her forever. Well, until you delete her anyway. The game reboots, everyone's happy, except for Sayori, who repeats Monika's mistakes. Monika's remnants save us from Sayori's grasp, and the game ends bittersweetly with the song Your Reality. The DLC is filled with many dark themes that really make you think twice, and make you come back wanting more. This is why DDLC was such a massive success in the first place. It made you ask, that's it, whether you viewed the game negatively or positively. Before I give a final rating to the visual novel, let's give Doki Doki some stars. Firstly, I will give DDLC a quarter gameplay star, because it has some replayability, although it's not that great from a gameplay perspective. It's a visual novel, so it's to be expected. I will give a visual and music star. I don't think I need to explain these two, because I've already rambled on about how much I love the visuals and music of DDLC. DDLC also gets 3/4 of an originality star. Why? Because DDLC definitely has a lot of creative elements, although there are a few games that follow DDLC's tropes and general idea, although they aren't as popular, unfortunately. And, of course, I will give it a personal star. I love Doki Doki Literature Club, and it's helped me a lot in the real world, strangely enough. I have a close personal connection to this game, and I think it definitely deserves it. With the stars out of the way, let's give DDLC a rating. So, overall, I think that Doki Doki Literature Club Plus deserves a nice and round...
Wow, that sure as hell was an experience. Well anyway, remember everyone, stay in school, don't do drugs, and don't spend $70 and hundreds of hours on a silly little visual novel game. People will look at you funny. I'll see you in the next one. Huh, you know, I'm actually kind of surprised. I mean, this whole time, I've been recording on this piano and just talking to a camera. I feel like ending off my video typically just won't really do it. And I mean, hey, no one's actually made it this far, unless for some reason they decided to skip to the end to find some sort of Easter egg. I guess in that case, we can roll a different outro sequence for today. So, let me just get my piano ready here, and let's play some tunes.
Every day, I imagine a future where I can be with you. In my hand are some keys that will write an essay of me and you. The ink flows down into a dark puddle. Just move your hand right the way into their hearts. But in this world of infinite choices, what will it take just for them to check me out? What will it take just for them to check me out? Have I found everybody a gripping topic to watch today? When you're here, everything that I do is fun for me anyway. When I can't even read my own feelings, what good are words when a thumbs up says it all? And if this clip won't write me an ending, what will it take just for me to end it off? Do my keys only write bitter words for those who are dear to me? Is it good if I stall you, or is it good if I set you free? The ink flows down into a dark puddle. How can I write myself into reality if I can't hear the sound of your laughter? What do you call fun in your reality? And in your reality, if I don't know how to amuse you,
I'll leave you be.